Well, hello everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we have to talk about 2022 model year vehicles because there are a lot that have been built and they haven't been shipped out yet, and so we have to talk about what's going to happen to these vehicles. But before we get in this video, as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. And then if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Let's get into it. So one of the most common questions that I get asked on the channel is, what is going to happen with all these vehicles that are sitting on storage lots that manufacturers are waiting on parts to deliver to dealers? And it's going to depend manufacturer to manufacturer, but here's what I'm seeing in the real world. With most manufacturers, they fully intend to sell these vehicles. Now, I made a video in the past talking about how they might try to rebadge them as 2023s, but here's the deal. These vehicles, or most of these vehicles, already have VIN numbers and they already have build dates on them in 2022. And so the manufacturers can't exactly rebadge them as 23s, even if the vehicle that they're selling hasn't changed at all from 2022 to 2023. And this is something that I'm seeing in real time because, like with GM product, for example, what you'll see if you go to a GMC dealer or to a Chevy dealer is you'll see 2022s on the lot and 2023s on the lot. And then if you look at their website, you'll see that they have 2022s and 2023s in transit. And so you can see that General Motors fully intends to sell all of those 2022s. And so that's what's going to happen with most of these manufacturers is they're just going to keep shipping out these vehicles. Now, obviously, there's going to be a point where like it's just not going to make sense anymore if the vehicles are held for too long. Like if it's 2024 and they're still trying to ship out 2022s, I don't think that that's exactly going to work. But, you know, throughout the course of the 2023 sales year, like I just wouldn't be shocked as a consumer if you're going to continue to see more and more of these vehicles show up at dealership lots. And again, this is what I am seeing because, you know, with my review channel, I focus at this point on filming only 2023 model year vehicles because on the YouTube side of things, if something's titled 2022, nobody's going to watch it because first off, it's 2023 as like the year itself. And secondly, you know, this is what people are Googling right now is they're Googling 2023, whatever it is for a vehicle. But you know, I always like to look. And so that's just kind of what I'm seeing in real time. And you know, this is what I'm also seeing with the vehicles in transit to dealers. And it's kind of a weird situation because I've never seen anything like this before because what I typically see in a normal filming year when I look at all of the different brands is that I'll basically see, you know, a time period where a certain model year will be shipped out and then there'll be like a cutoff date. And then usually there'll be like a little bit of a lapse in time where that vehicle just won't be shipped to the dealer. And this is something that dealers have to typically contend with every single year, where they basically won't have a certain, you know, model to sell at a certain time period. Like when I worked at the Ram dealership, I remember that there would be certain times in the year where we would have like no trucks to sell because we just basically were in the gap between one model year to the next. But that's not what's happening right now because what's happening right now is these dealers, again, are taking delivery of the 23s and then they're also taking delivery of the 22s. And well, because of the current market conditions, both of them are sitting in the lot. But what I can tell you is that it seems like customers are leaning more towards purchasing the new 23s rather than the 22s. And I don't know if it's just because of like a mentality thing where they're just like, I want a 23 and not a 22 because the 23 feels newer, or if it's just because the pricing isn't really all that different, you know, in terms of what the dealer is negotiating on the vehicles, which I think there's definitely some credibility to that because I have seen, you know, what some dealers are charging for these vehicles and there's not really a price difference with them. Like there's basically a small MSRP difference with these vehicles where maybe, you know, the 23 might be $1,000 more than the 22, but the actual sales price, like again, it's just like maybe $1,000 difference. And so I think that also kind of plays into the whole situation. So now we have to talk about what this is going to look like throughout the 2023 sales year as this whole situation pans out. So in the short term, so January to March, not much is really going to happen when it comes to exciting things. You're just going to continue to see manufacturers ship out as many of these 22s as they can. They're going to arrive on dealer lots and dealers are going to attempt to sell them, and they're going to have pretty minimum incentives at this point. Like most of them will have some form of incentive because again, it's an old model year vehicle, but just don't expect the incentives to be massive, especially if it's a more specialty type vehicle. And then as the year progresses, this whole situation is going to progress. So once you chunk things out past March, those incentives are going to grow. Even if a vehicle hasn't landed on a dealer lot yet, the manufacturer is going to know that they need to help that dealer sell that vehicle right away because it's old product. Like by the middle of the 2023 sales year, if there's still 2022 on the lot, like nobody cares. And you're gonna have to give someone like a screaming deal to convince someone to buy an old model year vehicle at that point. And so in the middle of the year, that's when the availability with some of these 2022s could still be pretty solid, but then also the incentive on it could be pretty solid as well. Now it's obviously going to depend on vehicle to vehicle, manufacturer to manufacturer, but that'll most likely be the general trend. Now, once we hit the fall range of this year, that's when it's going to be a pretty interesting thing for manufacturers to grapple with if they still haven't shipped at all these 22s, because once the fall hits, and this is something that I know because of my review stuff with the channel, most manufacturers cut off production for that model year vehicle. So fall this year, you're probably going to see production cut off for most 2023 model year vehicles. And so if manufacturers are no longer building the 23s and they're starting to build the 2024s, and they haven't shipped out the 22s, it doesn't really make sense for them to ship out the 22s at that point. And so this is where you might see a lot of vehicles just getting reused, basically. Like the manufacturers just crunch the vehicle and take the parts that they can and reuse it to build other vehicles in the future. And so I think that's most likely going to be the cutoff right there, because again, different brands do this whole thing at a different point in the year, but with most brands, that's typically when the transition happens. And again, if you watch the main review channel, what you notice is every single year, once fall hits, that's where I start to transition to filming the next model year vehicles and stop filming the previous model year. Like back in last year in 2022, if you look at like my videos, once fall comes around, I slowly stopped posting 2022 model year vehicles and started posting more 2023 model year vehicles. And I'm sure that the same thing will happen this year as well, from 2023 to 2024 model year vehicles. And so I want to finish this video off with some exceptions to the rule that I just stated. So throughout the video, I said that some specialty vehicles are probably not going to follow the rule, and that's something that I do want to emphasize, because manufacturers understand that certain vehicles that have high demand for them will always be able to be sold brand new if they are available. And so if you're looking at a product that is just something that's more exciting, that has an enthusiast base behind it, then just understand that you're probably not going to see incentives on that vehicle no matter how late it arrives at the dealership. And also understand that the manufacturer might be willing to send out that vehicle even in 2024 just because of the type of vehicle it is. And prior to the pandemic, there were cases where dealers would actually have like really old vehicles on their lots. I remember where there was a situation where some Chevy dealers, like this was in like 2017, 2018, where Chevy dealers would basically have like 2014 model year Corvettes still sitting on their lot, brand new, that they hadn't sold. And so having super old cars on the lot is not necessarily something that is super new to the car industry in general, especially on vehicles that again are considered more specialty. But on the stuff that is more average Joe type, so like think like your average crossover, average pickup truck, all that kind of stuff, in that case it definitely doesn't make as much sense for them to keep it. So I guess that what I'm trying to say here is, if you happen to be following any vehicle that a specialty vehicle that has an enthusiast market behind it, then you might still be able to find that vehicle in the next year or two, brand new, just arrived at the dealership, because there's no point in scrapping that type of vehicle, right? Because it's gonna sell. So that's gonna sum things up for today's video, talking about this 2022 model year vehicle situation. And I'm going to probably wait a month or two before making an update video on this, because I just want to see how the situation progresses, and I just want to see if more of these 2022 start, or continue rather, to pop up on dealer lots, as I'm seeing right now. And I will say, what I am seeing right now is a slight slowdown with this. But again, whenever I look at dealer websites when I'm trying to find cars that I'm filming for the main channel, I'm always shocked at how many 2022s that I see on their website that still say in transit. And the other thing that I've also been seeing quite often is it'll say in transit, but then it'll say like delayed, or contact dealer for more information, because something's happened. And then obviously, since I filmed for the dealer, I'll go and ask them. I'll be like, hey, what's happened to this vehicle? And this is what I get. They're like, Ben, here's the deal. It got delayed again because apparently it doesn't have this part available, and we were supposed to get it 2 months ago, and it's still not here. And it's pretty much always that story. And so, yeah, it'll just, like I said, it'll be interesting to see how this whole situation progresses. But I want you guys to let me know what you think about this situation. Would you be willing to purchase a 2022 in 2023? Would you like basically expect a massive discount on the vehicle to convince you to purchase it, or would you just buy it because it just happens to have the options that you're looking for? And then, you know, when do you think peak incentives are going to happen? And then when do you think the cutoff date for these vehicles is going to happen? Do you think that, you know, my whole analysis is, you know, on point, or do you think that I'm, you know, don't know what I'm talking about? But anyways, that's going to sum things up.